Alright, for this week's video, let's check out these two famous influencer, atheist, nihilist, secular humanists, whatever the labels they call themselves. Check out this. They got a little beef going, and I want to examine the logical mathematics of their axiom and why Matt Dillahunty, he is being logically correct here versus her.
So Matt Dillahunty made a whole video where he called me out specifically on how spirituality is nonsense. I'm going to make a whole YouTube video responding to all of his critiques. Some of his critiques I think are fair. Sometimes I think it's semantic. Sometimes I think there's a fundamental difference. And sometimes I think the critique is unfair. And his basic critique is that because spirituality is so ill-defined and there's no proof of it, and it usually includes the supernatural, that it's really using the word spirituality is something that really only a charlatan will do because spirituality is nonsense, and I'm capitalizing on this nonsensical term. So let me just explain that I want to address is the word spirituality, his qualms with it, how I define it, evidence to support it, and why I use that term instead of other words. So let's take a look at what he says here.
So what do I mean by nonsense? Well, if you go to a dictionary, it's one of the secondary definitions of nonsense are things of no importance or value. And definitely spirituality so far has no importance or value to me. And until someone clearly explains what it is, that it's real, and why it should be important to me, I don't see that changing. But that's a trivial objection. Saying, oh, it's nonsense because I don't care about it. That's not an objection, and that's not what I'm here to say. I'm going with the more primary, the more prominent usage of nonsense. Words or language having no meaning or conveying no intelligible ideas. Language, conduct, or an idea that is absurd or contrary to good sense, and an instance of absurd action. And since we're talking about something that doesn't convey intelligible ideas, it's worth knowing that by intelligent, we're talking about something that is capable of being understood or comprehended.
So his first claim is that this word is too vague to be of any use or meaning. And because I don't believe in free will, this for me, when I talk about spirituality, is all grounded in human experience. But let's talk about evidence for this definition that you gave so we can try to ground it a bit. So first you say that spirituality is related to the human search for meaning, and our brains are meaning makers. That's what they do. We do not simply receive raw reality. We interpret it, we organize it. Our brain filters reality without us even intending to. So you say that you see no evidence that the universe has any intrinsic meaning. I'm a nihilist. I agree with you. I don't think that the universe has any intrinsic meaning, but the definition that you gave did not specify that meaning has to come from the universe. And so when I say meaning matters, I do not mean that the universe has a secret mission statement written into the stars or that there's a supernatural realm that we can be accessing. I mean that humans are the kind of animal that psychologically needs some kind of coherent relationship to reality in order to function. Our brains like to know what matters, what pain means, what we're responsible for.
Yeah, what a great representation of dogma in action, which I find hilarious because these secularists, humanists, materialists, empiricists, whatever freaking label they have, they're basically nihilists when it boils down to nihilism. All right, empiricists, materialists, physicalists, nihilists. That's basically their equation for their axiom right there. It's funny because they always, make fun of Christians for being dogmatic or having dogma. We just admit we have a dogma. Here's proof right here of their dogma. They have a very, very small dogmatic tiny little box that they live in that they can't get out of. And Matt Dillahunty right here, he's being logically correct in his dogma, which is her dogma really, but she uses psychology and tries to impose meaning when she says she's a free will denying optimistic nihilist, which is a contradiction all the way through, which is ridiculous, right? I'll back Matt here. He's actually being consistent, right? So their foundational axiom is like a math equation, right? Reality equals material. That's basically it. Reality equals material. Whatever's material energy, that's reality. The whole universe is a gigantic accident, and then we're here. So there is no meaning, no purpose, no transcendentals, no transcendence, nothing, absolutely nothing but material. And a lot of people have a hard time with this because our thinking, right, consciousness, logic, truth, knowledge is all non-material, right? So this is the hard part. It's all metaphysical, and you can't even talk or have a conversation without going into the metaphysical. So this is where their dogma shines, right? As a pure, hard dogma. Matt Dillahunty is being logical in his world. He's like guarding the little tiny box that these people live in. He's like basically saying R equals M, and you can't get out of it. She is saying, well, yeah, R equals M, but I can put meaning into what I feel like. And Matt has to police this, right? Because once you let meaning inside this dogma, it's not if, it's when. It will lead back to God. It will lead back to Christ. Once you let meaning, purpose, transcendentals, logic, truth, knowledge, once you let those things in to their worldview, it will collapse it and change it, right? This is like a math equation. So in the first foundational equation is their worldview, is their all reality is material, right? If you add anything here, any variable like meaning, spirituality, purpose, uh, transcendence, sacred, you add any one of these little variables to that equation, and if you follow it down the line, work it out like math, logically work out your worldview, live it in reality, and you will shatter the materialist worldview. It can't. It can't hold. It cannot hold. It's so stupid. It can't hold. So Matt is being logically consistent, right? He's holding the math guard. He's like, you can't uh, impose spirituality here. This is a hard dogma. It must stay in place. There's borders here. You can't cross these borders. This is an equation. You can't add your variables based on your emotions. And that's what she is doing. She's an ex-Mormon, ex-Christian. Uh, you know, if you follow their foundational axiom, like in a math equation, it leads right to nihilism because there's no meaning, there's no purpose. You're just a meat computer. You're accidental. The only thing that exists is the universe, all material. The logical conclusion of their worldview goes into nihilism. It can't go anywhere else. It goes straight into nihilism, right? So she over psychologizes everything, guys. She's like insufferable with this. At least Matt's consistent. At least you know where he stands. You know where he stands. He has a hard dogma. He's like, this is what it is. Prove to me with empirical testing or whatever evidence that blah 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 blah. That right. That's all he does. That's easy. Now I know where he stands. Now I know what he's all about. Simple. Great. Her, she shifts the goalpost based on her emotions, right? And that's a problem in this uh, sphere of thinking, in this sphere of influencers and this worldview. She just keeps adding variables based on her emotions because she wants to make up spirituality. She wants to make up meaning. Hey, you know what? Maybe your worldview is broken and it's not correct because for some reason humans seek meaning and purpose and spirituality and transcendence, right? So maybe the world isn't all material, right? But no, they can't do that because once they do that, it's not if it goes to God, it's when it goes to God. That math equation that logical math equation will go to God every single time. Funny how that works, right? How this mathematically plays out and goes to God every single time. That's why Matt Dillahunty is being a hard dogmatist here and is trying to check his fellow humanist, nihilist, whatever freaking word you want to add to their label. It all boils down to nihilism. They're just nihilism. They're materialist nihilism. That's the nihilist. That's what they are. So he knows the he knows the math. He knows the logic. It will run to God. It will lead to God. So he's trying to check her and people like her. You know, like, hey, this chick's getting popular. She got 300,000 followers on IG. I'm not sure on YouTube. I'll look right now, but Yeah, she's getting popular, and all she does is over psychologize the Bible, ancient texts, religion. Oh my God, it's insufferable. Like, look, lady, psychology is not even a hard science, and you can't reverse engineer psychologizing ancient people. You have no idea their state of mind, their the context they live in, their worldview. You're literally just making it up, guessing. You're just guessing it. And then she says, I don't believe in free will, and I'm a nihilist. I'm like, there's your answer. There's your worldview. Live it out, but you can't live it out, right? Because it's almost impossible. I say it is impossible to live it out because it's a freaking dead end, horrible way to live that humans can't even live that way. Unless you're some psychopath, and then the ones that do live it out, like Matt Dillahunty, he's lying all the time. He's in a performative contradiction all the time. He fights for human rights. He fights for truth of science. All metaphysical claims, all he says have no meaning, but then he imposes his meaning. So he's pretending. So they're just LARPers, right? If they're just basically LARPing. That's all they do is LARP, and we're supposed to take them seriously. Like these are the most reasonable people according to what empiricism. Like empiricism is a philosophy. It's a tool used for a certain specific thing. It's not supposed to give you a freaking entire worldview. It's not supposed to give you an entire axiom. I don't know how the hell that happened with these Enlightenment thinkers, but yeah, that's pretty. It's a self-defeating, performative contradiction, impossible to live by, axiomatic, dogmatic worldview. That's a joke. And right here, these two fighting it out is the proof. They have a hard dogma. Magdala Hunty is being consistent to guard it because she's adding tons of variables based on her emotional state and what her random guess is at psychologizing religions and people and her state of being. And it's just hilarious. It's a funny thing to see. When you see it, it's easy to see because it's literally math. Reality equals materialism. Work the math out. Right to nihilism. Nihilism, now they're struggling, right? Because they start out first bragging, being happy. Yes, we have the truth. We have science. We figured it out. We're all just accidents, and everything we think and love and have meaning for isn't true. None of it's real. There is no meaning. There is no purpose. There's no truth. There's no knowledge. There is nothing. Yay! Wow, what a horrible worldview, right? So that leads to depression, nihilism, and then there's a new trend I've been seeing on IG is these a lot of nihilists, younger people, your TikTok generation, they're saying nihilists basically sucks. They're like, this is terrible. So let's go to absurdity. Like they're going to absurd now. They're saying nihilism is so terrible. Let's just go to absurd. Absurd is basically nihilism, but saying, yeah, nihilism is crazy, but guess what? It's a joke. We all could laugh at it. Like what? This is like the dumbest worldviews I think possible. So you're in absurdism now? That's literally so contradictory, so self defeating, so self refuting. If you look at it like a math equation logically, it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Absurdism. Absurdism. But turning water into wine, that's impossible. That's the hard line where they draw. But they're gonna go absurd. They're gonna become the Joker now. They're just gonna become like laughed until like what? Like it makes no sense at all. I it I could understand the nihilist worldview because it's kind of easy to follow the math, to follow their logic. But from there to absurdism is like a weird jump that I can't even wrap my head around. So you're sitting there realizing that life is completely meaningless, purposeless, nothing is real. You're just an accident. You're just an ape. So now I'm gonna make it a joke. Like, this is crazy. This is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And it's literally the logical outcome of their terrible dogmatic axiom ran through its logical conclusion. It only takes enough time of people believe in this nonsense, live in this nonsense, to where they get to absurdity. Like, what's next? They're just gonna I can't even say what's gonna happen next on YouTube, but you can follow the logic. I'm pretty sure. What's next after they basically become the Joker, right? That's what's gonna happen next. Is, well, who cares? Let's just do whatever we want because there's no meaning and purpose anyways. That's the next logical step. Is they become complete psychopath jokers, basically, from Batman and Joker. The Joker. They're just gonna go to complete destruction because nothing is meaningless. I mean, because nothing has meaning and nothing has purpose. Like, this is the logical mathematical outcome of their terrible, awful worldview. That is a dogma. Matt Dillahunty proved it right here. I mean, she thinks she could get out of it with psychology, but she's contradicting herself constantly. She's a nihilist, doesn't believe in free will, but yet she wants to over psychologize and give meaning to things. Then you're not a nihilist. You're a LARPer. You're a total LARPer. This is crazy.